Have you ever come home from work and think, finally, no more work until tomorrow, I'll just chill with some games. Then you head to your setup, turn it on, sit down, and then nothing. You just blank stare at your library and you can't actually decide on what to play. Everything just feels like it's too much effort or not worth playing. I've had this a few times, and for a while I didn't know that this was a common thing and it had a name. Gaming Burnout. And I'm not talking about Burnout Paradise. And recently it's kind of hit me again, and because I find it so interesting, I thought I should talk about it. What it is, why does it happen, and how to overcome it. Gaming burnout is officially defined as the physical, mental, and emotional symptoms of burnout, often experienced alongside everyday life, such as exhaustion, stress, and depression. It's quite an odd feeling when you get it, and in a way you feel like you should be enjoying this hobby you've presumably been doing for many years, but something feels off and not how it used to be. Everything takes far more effort to do, or it doesn't even feel worth booting up a game. And while experiencing this, at least in my case, I'll find myself just staring at a desktop with nothing going on, or I'll find myself procrastinating from procrastinating, which is really strange. Like, I put off playing games by watching something on YouTube or just chatting on Discord. Sometimes I've had it for quite some time too. I've had whole months where I've barely played anything and just done basically nothing in that time. But even those shorter periods of maybe a week or two off gaming, I never really thought about why I suddenly feel this way towards the hobby, why everything took so much effort, and why it felt like it wasn't worth doing. And while the actual physical and mental elements of burnout are something interesting in of itself, I find the potential causes far more glaring and could sort of guide us on the bigger picture. One of the more common causes that I've seen thrown around is the abundance of choice with today's market. On Steam alone, 50 games are released every day, on average. 50 a day. With this choice, you would have assumed that you could find the perfect game for you out there and be perfectly fine and enjoy the time you spend with it. But there's an element of being overwhelmed by that choice, and it leads on to the next common cause, which is FOMO, or fear of missing out. You've got to bear in mind a fair chunk of these games coming out are live service or online multiplayer games that not only you but your friends might be playing. You've got to make sure you've made the right choice. Is this the game we're all going to be into? Or even if it's a single player game, are there elements that are time gated? Do I have the time to put into this game if I start? Maybe it's just easier if I don't start at all. It all plays into this element of being overwhelmed enough to not even want to start playing another game or continue the one you're already playing. Especially if you're working at the same time. You just want to enjoy something and have it there in front of you with no pressure. And this plays into another big problem I have, and I'm pretty sure many other people do, in particular with modern game design, where games are designed to keep you hooked and playing for longer and repeatedly. So many of these live service games, which are unfortunately becoming more common, have mechanics and elements that are just either time gated, require grinding, or give better rewards based on repeated behavior. And to me, I think this is one of the biggest causes for burnout now than it was in the past. So many games now are just trying to act like almost like a second job, where it requires you to put in time to progress. But you honestly feel like that the time you're investing and putting in isn't being adequately rewarded. A big one for me is modern World of Warcraft, where it has slowly added more and more mechanics and features that require daily logins, repeated questing or grinding specific NPCs or events just to progress a minuscule amount. But it isn't just World of Warcraft that does this. Plenty of other games do it now as well, and some don't even feel like they benefit or needed it in the first place. There are plenty of titles out there that could have easily been a standard single player experience, but didn't because of this push towards live service. And for me, when a game becomes consuming enough for me to come home after work and I log in to start what feels like my second job, rather than something entertaining, it just really demoralizes me and pushes me towards this burnout feeling. And while generally for me, great single player experiences that you can just jump in and out of easily with no time requirements are some of the best you can have, especially in games like Red Dead Redemption 2 or Baldur's Gate 3. There are live service games that do it much better than others. For example, Helldivers 2 is technically a live service game where players are interacting to make big changes overall to the game world, but there doesn't feel like there's any pressure to play repeatedly. I can quite happily jump in and out of Helldivers with some friends or solo, because there's no pressure put on you to achieve something before it runs out, or make minuscule changes for little to no gain. All these elements so far really coalesce into reasons why burnout is so common, and why it affects people in different ways. They all play into one another to make the player's experience difficult over time. Overwhelming choice, matched with FOMO, matched with the requirement to play repeatedly, will make anyone burn out. Not just in gaming, but in any hobby or activity that's supposed to be fun and relaxing. But even with all these elements playing off each other, I feel like there's an element that wasn't really discussed that much when I read and saw other people talking about their experiences with gaming burnout. You could just be depressed. Depression isn't just about being sad for no reason. You lose interest in almost everything that you loved before. You become overwhelmed easily, you become paranoid and have that fear of missing out, and you feel exhausted and stressed. All these above causes of burnout also massively contribute to the overall depressive state, and while other factors in your life are also causing you stress or sadness, such as work or family, that impacts on all other factors going on in your life. I know this because I've had it many times. I know plenty of people who have had it plenty of times. I know people that still have it. Once you've pinpointed the causes like this, and you really break it down, life becomes far more overwhelming the further along you go. That's why I never really had an experience like this with games before in my teens. I had no other responsibilities. I could just do whatever I want, play what I want, whenever I want. Sure, I had school, but that was just about it for me. I didn't have to worry about a lot of the things I do now. And even then in school, I really didn't do anything. Gaming burnout isn't just gaming burnout. It usually becomes burnout as a whole. You are tired and frustrated, and the hobbies you do care about no longer fill the gap to take your mind off it, or it becomes part of the problem itself. So what can we do to overcome it? So many posts rightly suggest just take a break. Step away from it entirely until you feel like you want to come back to it. This has worked for me and plenty of others. And honestly, being able to take that step back, analyze or take a breath, then come back to something when you're excited to do so, really helps you get back into the swing of things. You could take it day by day or even months at a time. But what do you do in those times away from it all? Well, a lot of posts suggested exercise, but yeah. I'm not really one for that, but I can talk about what I did instead. With a big portion of my time with burnout, I move on to something that I also enjoyed as a teenager, but even more so now, and that's building and painting models. I love the 40k universe and collect just a bit of everything really, and it's a hobby that is time away from a screen that I think really helps give you time to calmly do something else, while also giving you a boost of completing small goals. Assemble this many models today, maybe paint one really well tomorrow, and then another one, and so on and so on. Warhammer and other miniature games I think is a great hobby to have alongside gaming because they feed into each other so well, but they're also completely different. The same goes for things like Lego or Airfix or some sort of other model system, just something a bit more creative and hands-on. And it's that time away from a screen or games that really helps me focus on something else and overcome that burnout. Because you still feel like you're achieving something and you have physical proof of the effort you put in. Even outside of all of that, there are more great ways to help overcome burnout, such as writing, which I absolutely love to do. It's another reason why I started this channel, as it's a great way to write scripts and ideas down. But right now I'm writing a D&D campaign in a world that I created, and it's just been something again completely different to models and games, and it still allows me to be creative and complete small goals so that I feel like I have actually accomplished something. And with all this, YouTube, making these videos is another great way for me to stay connected with games, but in a way that's more analytical and critical. It gives me a chance to look at games objectively and not solely as entertainment, but as art and important things in my life that have influenced me and given me great joy. To me, overcoming burnout is about using different elements of my brain that still give me the boost that I need from completing small goals and challenges via different hobbies and activities. It helps that all these hobbies are linked in some way, but are also completely different experiences. You're likely to experience burnout more often with the way the industry has been geared to how it makes games now, And because of that, I think it's very important to find these other ways to relax and still hit the same elements that gaming does. Whether that's through what I've done with models, writing, and YouTube, or any other method you can find interest in. And if you find that it's something more than just hobby burnout, and maybe you are having a harder time with it all, whether it's work or school or your social life, the best option I find in those circumstances is just to talk to someone. Talk to your parents, talk to your colleagues, talk to your teacher, talk to someone about it. That will always be the best step you can take to overcoming burnout and stress, rather than just kicking the can down the road until the next outburst. There's always a way around whatever you're facing. You just have to talk and figure out what your next step is. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this content and want to see more, please click that subscribe button as it really helps me out. Also, like this video and share it with your friends if you think they'd enjoy it too. I really appreciate it. If you'd also like to gain access to the Retro Today Discord and see members only content, consider joining this channel. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.